All right, guys, so excited to be here. And Sean and thank you. Press that arrow to go next, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Sean and LA are just absolutely epic human beings. I had so much fun on their show, and it's just an honor to be here. And I frankly owe a lot to the car dealership. I actually got my start age 22. I was in grad school. And I was looking for a job, and I didn't want to go just get a in-between, what I thought would be an in-between job. I went and worked for a car dealership and learned sales. I did ups. This is probably 1997 or 98. I'm 42, so I don't remember. I was 20 years ago, so I guess that's 2001, actually. So let me do the math. But I owe a lot because I learned a lot in that experience. I actually only sold cars for 4 months and then was called more into ministry full-time. And along the way, I saw that there was a ton of potential within this industry for good. And I saw a ton of potential in the people that were in the industry too. And so I want to break down a few things. But before we do that, I know something about each of you that you may or may not fully realize. I know that you're all crazy. It's a pandemic, and we're here in Philadelphia, and it's freaking cold in Philadelphia. We could have been in Miami. We could have been in Texas. We could have gone to Mexico, but we're in Philadelphia. I went to the Liberty Bell last night. I walked 4 blocks to Liberty Bell, and it was not that it wasn't worth the 4 blocks in the cold, I can tell you that. But I'm so glad I went and took at least a photo. It was too cold to even do an Instagram story. So I was like, dude, I'm just going to do one later. By the way, if you guys, I'm on Instagram, the Mike Zeller. If you end up doing a shot, I promise you I will shoot you or shout you back out. But one of the things I want to do, one of the crazy things that I learned recently is in 1968, back in the space race, astronauts, we think of how much an astronaut is a genius, right? Well, they did a study and found that 4 and 5-year-olds scored a 98 percentile on human genius and human creativity. Astronauts averaged about 2%. And what happens is, over time, people believe in their genius less and less and less because it's drummed out of us in the school system. It's drummed out of us. And one of my core things that I want to take you guys through is I'm thinking about today. I want to help you guys tap into your genius, because if you can tap into your genius, you actually can build an organizational dream team. And I want to also get a little clarity. Who here is in the sales side of car dealership from the business, okay? And then who's in the executive leadership side, ownership, leadership? Okay, so we got some of that as well. So I want to help both of you guys embrace, whether you're in the sales or you're in the leadership side, tap into your genius. So another thing, as we think about genius and you think about human potential, like my core quest today is to help you recognize and embrace your genius and the genius of those around you, because if you can call that out and embrace the genius of those around you, what happens is we all step up, we all shine more, we all become better leaders, better performers, and there is a formula. And last year I talked to this guy, D-Hawk. Anyone know who D-Hawk is besides me? All right. All of us know who Visa credit cards are, right? Look, most of us have had a Visa. Well, he's the founder of Visa, and he's 99 years old as of today. And I talked to him, and in the 80s, he retired from Visa after pioneering. The reason we have widespread credit card use in the U.S. and widespread debit card usage, bank cards, that was a new thing in the 60s. He's the pioneer around that. The reason we have that is because he led and invented and pushed for that. And one of the crazy things he saw is as he started researching after he retired from Visa, he saw that the very best leaders in the world did something that ordinary leaders didn't do. And it's something you wouldn't expect. They spent more than 50% of their leadership energy on leading themselves. So as we think about where we're going and we think about what we're building in 2022, a few things, as we think about stepping into our genius and think about leading ourselves, one of the crazy things is if you own and embrace your genius, Socrates said, to know thyself is the beginning of all wisdom. Like as you look at human potential, what happens is when you put yourself in the right position and you put yourself in the position to succeed, you can do 50x more the average. You'll see some of the top performing salespeople in the country. They sell like 150 cars a month, 200 cars a month, 75 cars a month. The average salesperson sells like 8. Okay, so they're flourishing in their genius, and there's a lot of ways to unpack that. So I'm going to do a lot of that today. So about me, obviously spent a little time with the big guy, Tony Robbins. Actually spent 1,447 hours with Tony Robbins. Read over 1,500 books. I've also started 16 businesses, done collectively 300 million in sales. Author of Genius Within. But one of the things I'm most proud of is what I did in the car dealership world. So let's play this video. So a little bit about us. I had a socially minded car dealership. Think CarMax meets Tom Shoes. We were a used car lot. Obviously, we didn't have. We weren't a factory store, so we had to find our own unique niche. And part of it was CarMax means Tom Shoes. So every car we sold helped us give away a car to a single mother in need.
I don't believe this. I don't believe this. I got you.
It's hard to have words for what happened tonight. It was really special. We basically got to just present our end of the year give in a fabulous fashion where we gave away our 33rd, 34th, and 35th car tonight, and it was beautiful.
I couldn't believe it. I wanted to clear my ears out. I thought wax were in them. I didn't know. I felt it's hard. This never happened to me before. So I felt kind of like I was in a dream.
It's really a miracle, honestly. I got in a terrible car accident 2 months ago, and so just like me being in the car and like me turning it and it being mine was waterworks came. So many emotions.
Take this key, put that key right in that slot, and yes, ma'am.
So I share that story because as you're building your brand and your business, whether you're a salesperson or you're an executive, you want to think about, hey, as you're building the company, what is your own niche and what is the organizational genius as well? For us, we knew we couldn't compete head-to-head with a Honda dealer or something like that, but we actually outsold their local Honda dealers in Nashville. I'm in Nashville. We outsold them almost 2-to-1 on pre-owned Honda Pilots. And we just crushed that particular niche. And it was partly because of the brand, and we tapped into our own organizational genius. I'm going to break that down a little bit. So before I go any further, though, I want you guys to turn to the person next to you. Because, again, back to that story of the astronauts. And no, we're not. You don't have to put your mask on or anything like that. All right? But I want you to turn to the person next to you and say, you are a genius. All right. Now, I want to say, no, you are a genius. All right. The reason we're going to do that is I want you to start embracing what if I am really absolutely effing amazing at something and I haven't discovered my deepest purpose and my deepest passion, my deepest genius, and what if I have more to give? How many of you guys feel like you have more to give to the world? All right. So I want to invite you guys to embrace the possibilities that you have even more genius to unpack, and that there is a process and a formula for finding that. And I'm here all week, guys. I'm here till Thursday. And I literally blocked off my schedule except for a couple of podcast interviews. Then I'm here for you guys. So grab me for lunch, dinner, conversations. I'm going to give you my cell phone at the end of the presentation too, so you guys can text me. And I'm here to support, whether it's your company or your individual, like your life, your personal life, finding your genius, creating the culture there, all right? We hear those objectives. It's all about your people. Well, I think that's a half-truth because I personally lost over $1 million in 2 years learning that it's not just about your people. It's about getting the right butts in the right seats, stepping into your genius. And that's part of the reason now I have a book on it. So here's what we're going to cover. New paradigms to attract A players. Who wants more from the leadership side? Who wants more A players on their organization? Like, I mean, you guys know, you get a rock star, like we were talking about, this rock star salesperson. They sell 25, 30, 50, 75 cars a month, right? You get a rock star sales manager, rock star GM, turns around a whole dealership, right? But it's a new world. I'm also going to have an opportunity here in a sec for you guys to also get featured in the Washington Post. So I'll tell you more about that in a few. But retaining the A players. When you look at your A players, you see top performers. When you learn how to retain, attract, and call out the best of A players, guess what? They will stay with you longer, and they will be more invested in your company and your paradigm and what you're building. Another key thing, when we step into flow, we're going to unpack flow for a sec. How many of you guys have studied flow, the psychological state of flow? Anyone read any of that? Okay, beautiful, a few of you guys. So one of the crazy things about when you step into flow, you become 500% more productive. All right? How to identify your unique genius so you can be one of the best in the world. And then find your $10,000 per hour activities that are fulfilling for you and help your leaders do the same. What if your culture could do that? And then there's also an industrial age paradigm that we are losing right now. And it's actually a good thing, right? Like you look at the Great Resignation. I've been interacting with one of the authors for a big article from the Washington Post about the Great Resignation. And she found that the top reason people are quitting, people are feeling micromanaged and disrespected, right? Another thing, health concerns, right? Not being conscientious around that. Third thing, career path. People longing for something more in their career. Fourth, increasing demands on staff. So people just keep stacking more demands. Like one of my nurse friends, she's head of sales for a nurse company, and she's got 75% of her staff has quit, the team that she's worked with, and now she just has, her territory is like half of the U.S. when it was like 3 states before, and she's ready to go out the door as soon as the time is right. So you got to look at how do we keep great people. I don't know what it's like. I tried to do some research for the automotive. I couldn't find a whole lot about challenges. Are you guys facing any challenges in hiring and retaining people right now? A little bit? Okay. All right. So here's what I'm going to offer to you guys. Totally pro bono. If you guys want, come to me over the next 2 days or text me. And if you have a soundbite or a piece of a challenge that you're facing in this great resignation era, reach out to me, and decent chance I can get you featured in the Washington Post. All right? As a mention or a comment, because I've been interacting with one of their lead columnists on this very subject. And she's like, Mike, while you're there, get some data and let me know some stories. All right? So who would like to get their dealership or themselves featured in Washington Post? Just message me afterwards. I'll give you the details on that. But the end result, if we can do this thing, I want to help you guys get the best people, the A players, because A players need to be led, not managed. I hate, as a business owner, I hate leading people. I mean, I hate managing people. I enjoy leading. I enjoy giving direction, but I hate managing. Get the most out of people. And then giving the most. So this new paradigm, you think of Henry Ford and the assembly line, right? What was the paradigm? It's like total quality management. It's like maximizing worker output. Well, in this new culture where employees now have somewhat of the upper hand, you've got to give the most and create a culture that empowers them. People long to be empowered. This is an age and an era of empowerment, and if you embrace that, beautiful things are going to happen for you guys. All right, one of my favorite experiences, I was mentoring this company out of Vancouver, Canada, one of the world's most beautiful cities. I don't know if you guys have been. We probably don't have any Canadians here since they're like perpetually on lockdown and can't leave their house. But you guys, do you serve any Canadians, Sean? Yes, but they're not here, right? Yeah. One or two. All right, they snuck across the border. Trump didn't build his wall in Canada, apparently. Elite Lending. All right, so I was working with these guys. They were the 5th largest lender in Canada, and now they're about the first or second, depending on which evaluator you use. But as we're working together, they had 5 key leaders with 2 co-founders, 50 sales agents. Now they have 108, by the way, 2 years later. Our year working together, they grew 30%. A few other things. Jeffrey Ho and Anish, they stepped into their genius. Organizationally, they got aligned where they were all, as I take people through 5 different personality tests to find their genius, okay? So I'll give you guys the quick rundown of how do you find your genius. First, your unique talents. Second, your key relationships. Like, where do you have a natural proclivity? Like, have you guys ever noticed that some people you just love being around? And then other people, you're like, man, that person gives me death. I got to get away from that person, right? So that's the second thing, your key relationships. And third, your defining life experiences. Fourth, your values and passions. When you intersect all those things, that gives you the greatest accumulation of clues about who on earth you are and what on earth you're meant to do. So I took them through this whole process. We found out Anish was like, he loved being the innovator and the idea guy, and Jeff loved running the systems. And what happened is, and Jeff was really good at that, Anish not so good at that. And they were both trying to do both of those things. And they were suffering, they were struggling. And as they stepped more into their genius, they stepped more into flow, stepped more into synergy, and they had a lot more fun. And same organizationally. Now they've grown 200%. Profit numbers are higher than ever, and they're having more fun, and team is aligned more deeply, and they've retained their top people still 3 years later. Okay. Famous quote, Einstein actually didn't say this, but he's most attributed to it. No one knows who actually said it. Might have been Einstein. But everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it's stupid. All right? So I want to invite you guys to embrace this possibility here. 4 steps, we already talked about that, flow state. We're going to go through that here in just a sec. And as you look at, heading into 2022, another crazy thing is the next 10 years, one of my other clients that I consult is a guy named Peter Diamandis. Peter Diamandis he created the X Prize that is now, like we're Virgin Galactic, and we got all these rockets, billionaire rocket club, right? We got Bezos and Elon and everybody trying to shoot, and Richard Branson shooting rockets into the sky with people on them. Well, that was started by this guy, Peter Diamandis, that I'm consulting right now. And when you look at the era we're in, if we think the pace of change has been too fast, right now, it's actually slow compared to what it's going to be 10 years from now, right? Like, we think of how fast. Like, I would have never imagined that 5 years, it's actually about 2 or 3 years now from now, Audi is no longer making gasoline-powered cars, right? It's going to be all electric, and we got driverless cars that are coming down the pipe so soon. I don't know. Are you guys excited about driverless cars, or is that woo? LA is for sure. I don't blame you, LA. I'm super pumped. I actually think it's really cool. So, but I still want to go fast and drive my own car too. All right, so let's dive in a little further. So, what I've found as a leader, and with the leaders that I serve, is if I know people's genius, it's like I've got these X-ray goggles. I can see where people can go. If I'm selling, another thing, if I'm on the sales floor and I recognize people's personality traits, which they are there. Like I've met these guys, one of my other mentors, he was one of those people readers that the FBI would have, right, where they could read and understand and see, oh, this is how he's wired, or this is his personality, or that he's lying, or whatever. He was a expert people reader based on body and mannerisms, and you can see people are giving off clues about their genius. But if you're unaware of the signals and the signs, you'll miss it. But if you become aware, guess what happens? Now you get to understand people's motivations. As a leader, I care very much about people's motivations. Why do they want to do this? What drives them? And if I can tap into their drive, guess what? They will rise to new heights, right? Their fears. Man, there's a lot of fear and anxiety. We are going to have a cultural problem with anxiety, embracing, hugging one another. I like to hug people. Like, if I'm going to get a virus from you that might make me sick, if I hug you, well, I'll hug you later. I'm not afraid. I've been vaccinated and all that. But the fears, there's a lot of fear in our culture. And if you look, how many of you guys have felt fear when you're selling or working with your employees or your customers, right? So if they are struggling with fear, then what do they need? They need certainty. They need that, hey, it's going to be okay. I got this. And if you are leading with a sense of certainty and calm, guess what? Now you get to guide them. They can relax and let go, right? Next thing, I get to see, like, my team loves working with me right now. Maybe not always, but right now they love working with me because I can see where they would flourish or where they will flop. And I want to put them in a position where they will flourish. One of my core responsibilities as a leader is to put them in the position that they will flourish. The tendencies, like, where are they naturally going to shine? Where are they naturally going to struggle? I know about as much about Sean Bradley's strengths and weaknesses as his wife, from the one day and from all the tests I had him take. And yes, I know his tendencies. I know his genius. This dude is a freaking genius, and he's about to blow up beyond, like, you think Grant Cardone is a big deal. This guy's going to be an even bigger deal than Grant Cardone over the next decade, next 10 to 15 years. Woo! $5, dude. He pays me a lot of money for that. But he really is. Like, spending time with him. But I can promise you, that's why I'm here this week. I can spend time with each of you. And if I got 30 minutes, 20 minutes, I can start unpacking some of your genius. And I know you have God-given potential that is not yet tapped. And that's part of my quest and part of my mission is unlock that. Whether it's in your personal life, your business, whatever it is, the strengths, the weaknesses, how to design a super team. Like, I'm an organizational thinker, and I like to help leaders design their super team. And I'm a big fan of the Chicago Bulls. I still think Michael Jordan is better than Steph, better than LeBron. Yeah. And I still wear Air Jordans almost all the time, except today. Man, super team. Think of the team. Think of businesses. So I'll break down Steve Jobs and Apple at their heyday. At their pinnacle, Steve Jobs is the bold, visionary, risk-taker, innovator, right? Then you got Tim Cook. Their supply chain was a total disaster when Tim Cook came on board. It was just a total chaos, and Steve Jobs is always like, we got to get this done in like 6 months, what should take 2 years. And Tim Cook cleaned it up. Joni Ive, the brilliant designer. Like, we all use, iPhone is the most popular product ever created. Most popular product ever created. Joni Ive was the brilliant designer and artist. So artist, entrepreneur, leader, manager type. And same thing with the Bulls. You got Phil Jackson, the coach, the orchestrator, keeping peace, getting alignment. As you're building out your team, you got to be, who's that guy, right? Then who's your all-star that's going to just drive that killer instinct, Michael Jordan, right? Who's your Scottie Pippen? Who's your number 2 guy that is a brilliant complement? And then who does the dirty work? Like the Dennis Rodman. And then who's a great pinch hitter when you need him? Like the Tony Kukoc or the Steve Kerr that comes in and is just clutch, right? Same thing in this moment. Central responsibility of leadership in 2022 is to steward and leverage human capital that goes beyond the normal job expectations. People are longing to find their passions, their purpose, their talents, even more than before. So if you look at Generation Y and all the other millennials, you know what? Yeah, they can be a little flaky, right? But they're flaky because they're looking for something more, and if you aren't going to fulfill that, they have less tolerance. They're going to bounce off, right? And so you got to tap into that. You got to help. If you help them grow more than anyone else in the world that they could be with, guess what? They'll be with you. They'll grow with you. If they still see potential, so like, look at how can I connect with my team and support them and ask them those tough questions. Because people will go work for the crazy environments like Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was a maniac, especially in his first round, but second round, still highly demanding. Elon Musk, 100-hour weeks. I know people that worked for Tesla and were higher up, and they're like, yeah, it was insane, but they wanted to work there because they wanted their best to be called out. Same with like Tom Brady. People want to be around people who call out their best. And A players, you guys are all A players, I think, in being in this room, right? Like, you guys came in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of a crazy time in human history, like a plague. It's like a plague sweeping through the earth. Fortunately, it's lessening and getting easier and easier to tolerate. But it's still an insane time, and you guys came here because you want your best to be called out, and you believe dealer synergy, and this event is going to help you call out your best, and it will. And you're here for that, right? One of the other crazy things, if you think about this guy, I don't know, this is my first time interacting with car dealers at a bigger scale. Can you guys give me a boo if he's the devil for the industry, or a yay if he's the darling? All right, so let's hear the boos if you're not a big fan of Elon Musk. No boos, all right? Boo. One or two of them. What about a yay? Do we got any yays? You like? Yeah, it's kind of lukewarm. We're so ambivalent. But this guy was nearly bankrupt in 2018. Nearly bankrupt twice. He kept on almost failing with SpaceX and Tesla, like on the edge of falling over, right? Now, we're $330 billion. Second richest man behind Vladimir Putin, who owns Russia. So he's like one of the craziest scenarios. And if you look at what he's done, he's tapped into his genius, his human potential, more than I'd say any other entrepreneurial leader right now, although Bezos is right up there. So one of the other myths, one of the things is we're growing our companies and we're growing our business, whether in sales or in the leadership side. One of the myths we see is, if I just work harder. How many of you guys are working 50, 60 hours a week already? 70 hours a week. I know when I was in the car dealership, it was 60 to 70. We'd have our Friday night sell-a-thon like once a month where we'd stay open till midnight. And then Saturday was another 12, 13-hour day. You can't just work harder, all right? You eventually start hitting a point of diminishing returns. And as you look at where we're going, you also can't believe in this myth that I can be great in anything. I'm going to dispel that myth for a second. Like, I'm 5'9". I could dunk. I did dunk twice when I was 20, but I can't dunk anymore. I was never going to be as good of a basketball player as Steph Curry or Michael Jordan or Luka Doncic, but I can be great at something. And you can be a genius at a few things, good at some things, and mediocre or worse at most. All right? And so our goal and our quest is to understand that. Again, the founder of really Western democracy, Socrates, said, to know thyself is the beginning of all wisdom. There's a verse in the Bible that says, it's better to have self-control than to conquer a city. It's Proverbs 16:32. So if I learn to master myself, back to the D-Hawk, the very best leaders in the world spend more than 50% of their leadership energy on leading themselves. So let me keep going here. Attracting A players. How do we attract A players? That's a question that I help a lot of organizations figure out. But you want to do a deep inventory and awareness of the strengths and the zone of genius, especially of the founders and the key leaders. And then you design the team to complement them, all right? If you get greater clarity, guess what? Clarity is 5 C's. If I have greater clarity, I will have greater courage. If I have greater courage, I'll have greater confidence. If I have greater confidence, guess what? I'll lead with greater conviction, and then my commitment level rises, okay? As you attract other A players want to be around other players. Look at sports world. Why is Tom Brady recruiting in all these top talent? Why did they stay, longer? Why in the NBA do you see players jump? How many of you guys want to be around other great players, right? We want to be on an all-star team. People, we're all investing our best years and best moments and best energy of our life in our work. We want to accomplish something. We want to be around others that are going to help us do that at an even higher level. So, next thing, how do I create compelling work environments and cultures that communicate that you care about their potential? So Steve Jobs, when he came back to Apple, guess what? He understood that. because he'd been kicked around a little bit, and he realized, all right, I've got to create a culture that shows that I care about the potential of others. And he did that, and that's why Apple is now worth $2 trillion. $2 trillion, guys. Insane, right? Most valuable company in the world. How do we get most out of our players? Couple things. Use and align their strengths. Manage weaknesses. My wife and I, this also really helps in marriage, by the way. My wife and I, we've done all the tests. I did a Zone of Genius date when we were 3 months in, and she thought it was really weird, but she really liked me, so she went ahead and did it. But I had her do all these personality tests, and we did all these personality tests, and she's like, like you have all these ideas. And then she's like, she gets overwhelmed by all these ideas, and she melts. She's also really good at finishing things. I'm really great at starting things, not so good at finishing things. So now, like my organizations, my teams, in our romance, we have more fun with that. In alignment, when you're looking at building your team, how do I get the right butts in the right seats? Well, how do you even know what the right seat is? And who's the right butt for that seat? Well, there is a science, there is a process for figuring that out. Creating space to be seen, heard, valued, and expanded. A players want that. A couple other things. Flow state. Okay. How many of you guys, does anyone like surf or anyone do any extreme sports here? Any extreme sports? What do we got? What do you do? Rock climbing, yeah. Freestyle? Yeah, I wouldn't freestyle either. That's crazy. But when you're rock climbing, right, and you're in a zone, locked in a concentration, guess what? What happens is you literally start releasing all these neurochemicals, the neurochemicals that cause you to step into flow state. And you're stepping into your strengths, and you're also pursuing something called mastery. Us as human beings, we long for mastery. We long for purpose. And when you are stepping into your strengths, you're twice as likely to step into flow. When you are in flow state, you're 500% more productive. One of my, I had a real estate team. At the time I had a car dealership, I also had a real estate team, and we were one of the top 1 or 2 real estate teams in Nashville. And I sent my business partner off. I said, hey, Brad, you got to go take a vacation. And he went and took a vacation, and he went to Norway. And we were like really disciplined about taking real vacations. He came back after a 10-day vacation, like a true vacation. We covered his business. He was totally good. Didn't log in his email. Came back and sold 10 houses the next week. So if you guys, 10 houses is a lot of freaking houses. Most agents sell like 8 or 9 houses in a whole year. He sold 10 in 1 week because he's so locked in. His energy, his peak state, right? Like you want people to be refreshed, not burned out. And I know it's a freaking crazy, stressful season right now, but when you step into flow state, and there's a process for that. I don't have time to break it all down today, but there is a process for stepping in flow state. And one of the key elements, though, is stepping into your strengths and then minimizing distractions. So if you're working on a big project to build your business, training, development, etc., or growing your sales ability, get focused. Unplug from your phone for a little bit. That's a quick little hack. But what happens is you release all 6 of the neurochemical cocktails. I know this is a little deep, but it's all 6 of those cocktails, or those chemicals, that then are positive endorphins that also lift you ironically, out of depression, out of feeling like a malaise in your life, right? Next thing, giving the most. People are self-driven. Like you guys are here in the middle of a pandemic, you're self-driven. Your team is also self-driven. They have a place where they want to go. They may not have total clarity, but they want to make a difference and do meaningful work. People are competitive. They want a healthy level of challenge and autonomy, and they want to be around other A players and be challenged as such.
Do you like the content? Well, if you want more, then you need to sign up for Bradley On Demand, the world's best virtual training platform in the entire automotive industry. With some of the top speakers, salespeople, and trainers, and almost 7,000 training modules. You will sell more cars more often and more profitably. So sign up now at www.bradleyondemand.com.